My parents were elites, so they noticed some things happening to me when I was 4 months. My hands will swell, my feet will swell, and I will fall ill. And my grandmother thought it was abiku and all that, and they started trying to do all kinds of things. But when I was 6 years old, I had another crisis, which was bad. And they had to refer me from the hospital in Akure, where we were, because they didn't actually know what was wrong. They referred me from the hospital in Akure to Ibadan UCH. So we went to UCH, where I was diagnosed. That was in 1966. Like when I was born, I didn't walk on time. I didn't take my first step until I was 2 years old. I didn't even crawl. I was always seated in one corner, and they didn't know. I would either be sick or, I wasn't an active child. As a child also, somebody dropped a stone on my toe, and my parents told me it took almost 2 years to heal. That too. That happened before I started walking. But all this time, they didn't know, but they just thought, what could be wrong? And it wasn't discovered until I was 6 years old. At that time, I would have a crisis. They would take me to the hospital, and they'll pass tubes and all that, give me food through my nose, because sometimes I couldn't eat anything and all that. It was a bit difficult. Then I would say weeks in the hospital. Weeks in the hospital until it was like that until I got to the university. That's the truth. Maybe 13 weeks of term. I would spend like 6 weeks in school or 7 weeks in school, and I would still do well enough to be promoted. But I was most of the time in the hospital. That time at home, my house was usually like a dead end. Once I am in crisis, everybody goes quiet, everybody kinds of dodge, because there's a lot of pain, shouting, sometimes screaming. Sometimes I won't even be able to sit down or stand up or anything, and people will come. There was a lot of pity. But once I'm okay, within a day, you won't even know that I had a crisis the previous day, because I'm about on my normal duties. There are some rules. You have to take care of yourself. Like when I was young, I never went in the rain, because once I go in the rain, the night of that episode I'll come out with a crisis. I wasn't allowed to play with my mates, with my siblings. I can't play rough. There were so many restrictions which I never really liked as a child. Then all the drugs, folic acid, Daraprim, and all that. I abided with all those things growing up. It was actually when I had my first child, I realized that sickle cell pain, crisis pain, can be stronger than labor pain. Can be stronger than labor pain. Like when I'm in crisis, I can't do anything. I can't sit, I can't stand, except I'm calmed with an injection. I remembered one night in particular. So this particular night I had a crisis, and my husband also had given his life, and he said, you're a Christian, I'll use your faith. I said, not now. That my faith can't carry the pain I'm going through. We almost quarreled over it before he said, in the dead of the night. I said, yes, I have to get to the hospital now. If not, we might be saying another story in the morning. Because it's like sometimes when it happens, sometimes I hallucinate. In fact, there was a time we were all still young ladies, and I was living alone with I was living with other friends and my brother in a small flat back in Ibadan. I was working there, and I had a crisis. And the next thing was, when I woke up, when I came round, I had taken injection and everything, but when I came round, they had to play back all the things I was saying while I was sleeping back to me. And it was like, did I say all this? But one thing that was always predominant in my talk is that no matter how painful, no matter how difficult this thing is, I will not die of it. That when you hear that I've passed on at an old age, it will not be sickle cell. You see, I couldn't really do what my mates used to do, like I told you. They will tease me with it and it will hurt me. As a child, if they are running and I try to run with them, they say, Ojalo, you better go and sit down, you understand, that kind of thing. Before you start crying now, my head, oh, my hand, oh, my leg, oh, you know, it wasn't. Then I couldn't play with my mates, that one on its own. And so it got me withdrawn, it got me extra sensitive. You understand? So when you do anything little to me, it's like, it's not your fault. It's because of the way I am. You understand? So a lot of times I take a lot of things in. So what I shouldn't actually react over, I find myself reacting over it. And I think I'm still working on it till today. There was even a particular time also, I was in the primary school and a teacher beat me and my mom went to their house. Both parents went to the woman and said, don't ever touch her again. This and that and that and that and that. For a long time, the woman would not even talk to me in class. She would not ask me any question. She would not, you know, she was like, she didn't want to have anything. And it was painful. So even if she asked a question in class and I know it and I want to answer, she will not call me. She will not even look my way. You know, but somehow along the line, I don't know how, because by the time I was leaving primary school, I became one of her favorite girls again. But that affected me for like 1 or 2 years. As an adolescent, my mates were bigger than I. They grew all the parts that I didn't look like an adolescent. I still looked like a child when I was an adolescent. When my mates were talking about having their periods, I didn't know what it was all about. Mine came very late. Then as an adolescent, people will know that I'm older than them. They will call people that are younger than me sister. They will call me my name because they don't think I will still amount to anything. You understand? You know, people always remind you of who you are, no matter what. And because of that, I try never to remind anybody because I know what it did to me. They start saying, by the age of 21, this will happen. I'll say, that is not my own portion. Even at that time, I didn't know anything about Christ. I grew up in a nominal Christian home and all that, but I didn't know Christ as I know Christ now. So it's like, that will not happen to me. I will not die. The first boyfriend I was actually serious with, his mom was a nurse. And I remembered him telling me then that his mom said, will you be able to cope with taking care of her? But you see, I was a bit worried too. When they are coming, first thing I want to know is, are you AA? Then when I see that you are AA, it's like I put my mind to it, that marriage might come out of this and all that. Because my friends also were already getting married. Like I had 2 or 3 relationships with men that are AA and it didn't really work out. And I know the main reason why it didn't work out is because of my genotype. And the funny thing was, the day I first came in contact with my husband, because somebody introduced us, we were talking on the phone. And we were just talking for like 2 months, we didn't see eye to eye. So I now went to Lagos. He was in Lagos, I was in Ibadan then. So I came to Lagos to see him. That night I had a crisis. It was a very bad one. And he said that was the night he made up his mind I was going to marry me. That this person needs to be taken care of. But I didn't know. In fact, it's funny because why will it be because you see me in crisis? He said, because this person. So the way God does his things. And his mom did not object to it. My mom did not object to it, but every other family member objected to it. My doctors objected to it and all that. And that time I wasn't born again. Before I even discovered he was AS, I was pregnant. So my doctor said they will flush it out. That was still early. I can't marry him, I can't produce another sickler and all that. And I said, well, I don't think I want to terminate any pregnancy. Whatever comes out of it, the Lord that has taken care of me will take care of whatever comes out of it. And what came out of it was Timilane, or is Timilane. And the Lord has taken care of her. She's a daughter I'm very proud of at any time. In fact, there was a time I had a crisis and she had a crisis. You will not believe that without even much of medication, mine just disappeared because I had to take care of her. She had a crisis not too long ago during the election when they said nobody should go out. And she went to vote, and I think the sun was too much or something, so she developed a crisis and she started throwing up. And you know, I could see that she was in so much pain and no movement. I said, well, get in the car, I'll take you to the hospital. Whoever wants to stop us can stop us. Yes, there's no movement, but when they see you, they will know that I can't keep you at home. So I took her to the hospital, and even the doctors were surprised. You came all alone with her. I said, yes, I couldn't wait for anybody because I knew she needed to at least be relieved of it. So because of what I have gone through, I know what she passes through when she's in pain, and I don't really want her to stay long in it. When she's in the hospital, I stay with her for a bit, a lot of times. Sometimes I sleep with her in the hospital if I have to. So, and I talk to her too from time to time. See, my faith is my life. So it's like, it's everything to me. For instance, sometimes when I feel like down, I feel like I hope I'm not coming up, I take communion on my own. I pray and I take communion and I go to sleep. By the time I wake up, a lot of times I'm fine. I don't fall ill that often, not anymore. Like this year, and maybe I've been to the hospital once, no, twice, early in the year, and recently, and that one I really didn't have to stay in the hospital because I just wanted to be injected, but the doctor insisted I stay on, so I stayed for a day, and I stayed at home for another day. People say people's genotype has been changing from SS to AA. I said I believe it, but I have never really gone out to say that it should change, because it's like I want to remain and use it as a point of contact to others that do not even have that strong faith that as a sickler there's no limitation for you, and sincerely as a sickler there's no limitation for you. To the glory of God, God gave me 3 children. I went through normal deliveries. Through my pregnancies, I'm usually very healthy, very well. After, I'm very well. I took care of my children. You know, I just believe that everything I'm able to do is by the grace of God.